Welcome to the Chico Creates podcast, where we interview local artists, musicians, and makers here in Chico, California. I'm your host, Kira Barsodi, and with me today is Bree Epley. Bree is a stained glass artisan and flower preservation specialist. She lives and creates in Chico with her husband and 2 young daughters. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself beyond the bio.
Well, I'm from Yuba City originally, so not too far from here. Culturally pretty different, but I was born and raised there. Just like Chico, it's got access to the mountains and the coast and all that. So when I was growing up, we did a ton of camping and hiking. Some summers, when I think back, it feels like every single weekend we were out somewhere, like at Lassen or on the coast.
Love that.
Yeah, so that's really fostered a lifelong love of nature for me. So you can imagine when I moved here and there's like Bidwell Park, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have to get in the car and drive 2 hours.
Totally.
And then these days, still do camping, still do hiking. I do a lot of biking too.
Nice.
Chico's, we're pretty lucky that it's a really bikeable place.
Yeah.
I would rather bike when I can other than drive, except for when it's 116 degrees. I have my limits. But yeah, you or your listeners may have seen me around town. I'm often biking, towing my 2 daughters in the bike trailer and turning around and yelling, stop hitting your sister. And
keep your helmet on.
I'll turn this bike around. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Awesome. So how long have you lived in Chico? What brought you here?
It's the classic story. I moved here for college in 2005 and loved it, stuck around for grad school. And while I was in grad school, I met my husband, and he's from here.
Oh, okay.
So he's obviously got a lot of ties to the area. His family's all here, and mine are pretty close, just still being in Yuba City. So I came here for college, but then I stuck around because people started tying me here, and then now I have my kids, and this is such a great place to raise kids.
Yes, it is.
That as much as we sometimes talk about, on days when it's 116 and we're like, oh, maybe we should move to Washington or something.
Totally.
But there's a lot keeping us here, and we love it here. So I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah. No, oh my gosh, I totally get that. Every year going into summer, I'm like, maybe it'll be different. And then every year right around this time, I'm like, we can't do this. This is terrible.
I know. Yuba City is the same weather. And so I feel like I should be used to this. This is the weather I've had my whole life. I am not. Every summer, I'm like suffering and melting.
Yep.
So I don't know. It just is what it is.
It is legitimately getting hotter, though, too.
That's true.
Undeniably at this point.
Yeah. When I'm looking at the forecast and seeing, in a few days it's going to be 100 degrees. What a relief. Things have gotten a little too far.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great litmus test there. It's like, it's only 104. That'll be so nice. Oh, my gosh. What's your favorite local spot or place to hang out?
Ooh, well, I already mentioned the park, and I think it's pretty unanimous. Everybody loves the park.
Yes.
What's not to love? I do bike through it a lot. But I think when I'm like going out and about and doing stuff, I probably spend most of my time downtown. There's the Chico Children's Museum. Have you gone into there?
Yes, my son loves it.
It's a gem. Yeah. My kids love it too. So. And we can just spend the whole day downtown sometimes. We'll go down, they'll play for a while. We'll go to restaurants. There's so many great restaurants. And we actually spend a lot of days too on just walking around and stopping into shops. Anytime I need to buy somebody a gift, I'm going to go downtown.
Totally.
Ice cream. And then have you ever been into Needham's Stained Glass downtown?
No. Oh, I want to.
Go in.
Yeah.
I feel like that's right here. People walk by and they see all the stained glass in the window. It's been there a long time. Mick Needham and Davin works in there. Those 2 guys are awesome. They are so friendly, so nice. They've helped me out a lot as I've been learning and honing my craft. Anytime there's been a project I'm struggling with, or I'm trying to figure out how to do something and I'm struggling because I'm trying to teach myself.
Right.
I can go in there, and they are really helpful, really kind. And there's lots of pretty stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then Saturday market.
Yeah.
There's just so many draws to downtown that I feel like I end up spending a lot of time there, and I always feel like I'm really in the center of things when I'm there. It's a good vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all the new restaurants that have gone in, and it's a great great vibe.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Sure.
Not every city has quite that like bustling, vibrant downtown. So it's an asset to Chico for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely feel like it's been growing and improving in the last couple of years too. So
Definitely.
yeah, cool. What did you go to Chico State for?
So I actually studied English.
Okay.
It's kind of a unorthodox way that I wound up where I'm at now. Both my degrees are in English, and at the time I did a ton of creative writing. That was really my creative outlet. But after I finished my master's, I was kind of starting to get a little burned out on that. And then after grad school, I started working as a copywriter for different e-commerce companies. That's how I know your sister-in-law.
Right.
And then that had me burned out even more when I was just like writing all the time for work.
Yeah.
And writing stopped being that for me. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. But like anybody else, I still needed a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And I spent years just like kind of dabbling in this, dabbling in that, trying to find the thing. And it took a long time. It didn't go well for a while. And stained glass had never even crossed my mind. It's not like I had an idea in my head of like, this is how stained glass is made and I can't do that. I didn't think that much about it because it just seemed in this nebulous way like it was something you couldn't do at home. Like I just assumed like, oh, you need like a factory or I don't know.
Yeah. No, it feels like extra complicated for some reason.
It does. Yeah, it didn't even cross my mind that you could just do that at home as a hobby. Until I found out that my husband's grandmother had done stained glass as a hobby out of her house.
Oh, cool.
And I was immediately like, what?
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I was extra lucky that my husband's aunt had held on to some of her mother's equipment, like a grinder and a soldering iron and stuff. And she very generously gave me those things. So I didn't have quite the like initial startup cost of having to invest in a bunch of things. And I bought a bunch of stained glass for beginner books and brought them home. And it was like instantly like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this every day. Like I was literally out in my garage studio every day when my kids go to bed, like working on it. And it was just like this light bulb moment of, holy cow, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. So how long ago did you start?
That was like literally January, right at the beginning of the year, 2022.
Okay.
So it hasn't been that long. It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But I have thrown just about like every spare minute I've had into it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it seems like you've been doing it a lot longer just with the results of your work lately. Yeah.
Well, I really took to it. I improved really fast. I think just because I really have that like emotional investment in it. Like I'm enjoying it so much, putting so much time into it, so that even if I'd been doing it longer, but if it was more of a casual thing, I may have improved more slowly. But but I really went for it. I really love it. It's funny. Can I say badass on this podcast?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
It's funny. Like it makes me feel like a badass when I'm like out in my studio and I'm like, I'm breaking glass.
Yeah.
And I'm melting metal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally.
It is so much fun. And then also really meditative in a lot of ways because there are repetitive parts and just also like just the focus of it, of being able to like put all my focus on this one thing that I'm making. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed if you can't tell.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And, you know, I would love to like talk about some of your subject matter and stuff.
Sure.
And what I love, it's really vibrant, you know, the colors and things that you achieve. So, yeah. So tell us like...
I can tell you about that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that comes down to the glass, which I don't blow glass. I don't make the glass. That comes as it is. But glass is just such a wonderful, dynamic medium to work with because like you said, you can get just about any color of glass that exists.
Right.
And it's so dynamic in that you can have the same piece of glass in one light and it will look one way, and then you move it to a different light and it's totally different.
Yeah.
And you see aspects of the glass that you didn't see before, where whether it's like iridescence or kind of stippling or sparkles even. And then when you have like a glass and it's backlit and the sun shines through it, it brings it to life. And you get that refraction where it then casts the colors onto like a wall or something. And I just find it to be really evocative. It brings, it gives me a lot of emotion looking at it.
Right.
And then, yeah, just the way it changes to me makes it so dynamic and so much fun that you can have the same piece of artwork, but sometimes it feels like multiple different pieces.
Right.
Just as it interacts with its environment, which is really fun.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, I have no idea how you even make stained glass. Like,
Right.
obviously, you're, like you said, melting metal, and then you're having to melt the glass to fit the shapes that you make, right?
So you cut the glass.
Oh, you cut
Which
them?
is kind of a misnomer because you don't actually cut it. What you do is you score it, you like scratch the glass, and it's like controlled breaking.
Right.
So you're trying to get the glass to break the way you want it to break.
Okay.
Which is fun and challenging, which is kind of part of the fun for me. Of,
right.
Really hoping it breaks right this time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have a little tool. It's called a cutter, even though it doesn't cut. And you press it down and you drag it across the glass in the way on the line that you want it to break.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a whole method to which angles you cut first, and sometimes if it's like a deep curve, you have to do multiple cuts.
Right.
And there are saws and things too, but those are much slower. Usually you want to kind of cut by hand first and then saw off any bits that didn't go the way you wanted them to go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then you melt the metal around it, and that's what holds it all together. You solder it together. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm picturing like, so my husband makes a gingerbread house, like a really elaborate one every Christmas, and we melt sugar into the windows, and they have a stained glass effect, And so that's what I was picturing. It was like pouring, molten glass into the molds. But yeah, no, that makes more sense.
Well, and that is its own art form, I buy the glass from the people who do that thing.
Right.
And I think there's like shows on Netflix where you can watch people do that.
Yes.
That is a much hotter hobby.
Right.
I already get pretty hot out in my studio, especially in the summers and when I'm working with the hot soldering iron. But I don't think I have the fortitude to do the actual glass making because they are like around these big furnaces and it's a lot. But it's also really cool. I like to watch it.
Yes.
But that's not my side of the, the art.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any like studio rituals or routines, or like what inspires your pieces?
Well,
those are two questions, I realize.
Oh, that's fine.
Two separate questions.
I'll mash it all together. It'll work out. It's especially tricky for me in the summer because my kids are 3 and 5 and they take up most of my time. So like when they're in school, I have more of a set routine. It's like they're in school, I'm in the studio, and a lot of the time when they go to bed at night, I'm out in the studio. In the summer, it gets tricky because they're not in school.
Yep.
Even when they're in camps, it's usually like a half day. And then in the evenings, it's very, very hot in my studio because it's in my garage, so it's not very well insulated.
Right, or air conditioned or anything,
Right. I mean, I do have like a mobile air conditioning unit, but it can only do so much.
Yes.
And we only want our electricity bill to be so high.
Yes, I understand that too.
So I do get less time in the summer, but again, it's my creative outlet. I love it. So any free moment that I can have, you will find me out there just like... When I walk out there, I don't know that it's quite a ritual, but like it just feels like this, like there's this sense of calm, and I'm in my space and I'm focusing on my thing, and it's really, really lovely. In terms of the things that inspire my work, there's, a few different things. I haven't really talked about it, but I do also preserve flowers.
Right, yeah.
And I said I'm a huge lover of nature, and so I do often make pieces that are inspired by that. I have this poppy pattern that I make that I really love. But my two hobbies also go together really well in that sometimes I'm like, well, I could try and recreate nature, or I could just incorporate it directly into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And because the way I preserve flowers is I do the pressing method, so they're flat at the end of the day. It goes great with glass because you can just encase it in between 2 sheets of glass.
Oh, yeah.
And I can add that into any kind of piece I want. Like I think I sent you a photo. I have a piece that I just sold recently that's like an anatomical heart.
Yes.
And all the like veins and stuff coming out of it, arteries, are just colored glass. They're blue and red, but then the bulk of the heart is the chambers are clear glass with flowers pressed in between.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And it's also dynamic in that, hey, look, it's a pretty flower. And then when it's backlit, you can see every vein in the petals and the leaves. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm really into it.
Yeah, no, it is really cool.
It's fun. And it's also an interesting juxtaposition to the glass itself because like I've been talking about, when I'm working with the glass, I'm breaking glass and I'm melting metal and I'm putting on Band-Aids. And it's very physical. And then pressing the flowers and working with the flowers is so delicate.
Right.
And it's like with some flowers like roses or dahlias, bigger, thicker flowers, you have to take them apart and press each petal individually. And then it's like I've got my tweezers and I'm painstakingly reassembling these flowers.
Yeah.
So to me, that's just really fun, kind of the juxtaposition of those two things, of this so delicate, natural thing and then this much more hands-on, dare I say, dangerous.
Right.
I haven't had any stitches yet, but the day will come.
Yes.
Side of things. And they go together really well.
Yeah.
Which worked out nicely for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I love that. Well, and it makes me think of nature just in general, the way nature is delicate and beautiful and like so tied to balance, and yet it's also very brutal.
Yes.
So yeah, there's that kind of dichotomy at play there too. Yeah. And so what's the best part about being an artist in Chico?
Ooh. Well, Chico's a great place to be an artist.
Yes.
I feel pretty lucky to be here. I would say the best thing about being an artist in Chico is community. And I mean that kind of in two ways, because I would say Chico as a whole, the larger community, is really supportive of artwork. Like, it feels like artwork is part of the identity of the town as a whole, even if you're not necessarily an artist. There are so many local stores that make it like they really want to carry local artist work. We have art events like open studios. We have this podcast. We have the Museum of Northern California Art. So it's just really like, I feel like central to the larger community, whereas it's supported and celebrated here. And then within that, we of course have the smaller artistic community, which I feel like I'm a more recent addition to. But I have encountered nothing but kindness and support. And I mean, I met you at
a vending event.
A vending event. You know, I do a lot of those, and it's like whatever artist is next to you, that's who you're going to chat to for the next few hours. And I've just gotten to know so many awesome people, and I've had nothing but good experiences. So that makes it feel really accessible and fun, where it doesn't feel like it's this like super elite, you're not an artist, you can't join us, you know, you can't stay with us. It's fun and supportive, and artists want to promote and support each other. So like you creating this podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I really feel like Chico is not a very cliquey art space, which is awesome. And then, you know, it's still California, but it's way more affordable than, you know, the big cities too. So
absolutely.
It's another great thing about Chico in general. Yeah. And as far as like the local community and just the support from artists and art lovers, it's something that you really can't beat. And, you know, I've talked with lots and lots of artists in town, and it's like the fact that we like have that support and feel that like appreciation really is a huge reason we all keep making, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes it feel welcoming and attainable and doable. I told you I bike around town a lot, and one of the main bike routes that I ended up taking a lot, there's a car parked on the street there. They must live there. I don't know who they are. Hi, if you're listening. But they have a bumper sticker that says, artwork is work. And it always makes me so happy of like, see, this is valued as a valuable way to spend your time.
Yes.
And it makes me really happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any ongoing or upcoming projects that you're really excited about?
I do. I have a couple if I can talk about more than one.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I recently started doing stained glass workshops where I'm teaching just like a small project. I've done a few out at Lassen Cidery, and they were so much fun. I don't have any more scheduled right at this minute, but I will be doing more. So if anyone's interested, you do not need any experience. You don't need any equipment. I will bring everything. You just show up. And you can pay attention to my Instagram or my Facebook or my website to see the upcoming dates once I've got those nailed down. I'm at Bree Glass Studio on Instagram. That's BREE Glass Studio. And my website is breeglassstudio.com. It's got my email if you want to reach out to me there too. I want to also do like private stained glass workshops. Like if you have a group of 5 or more people that want to do it.
Yeah.
And you got a house you're happy to do it in, like I'll show up, I'll bring the stuff and let's make it happen.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I used to teach English way back in the day. So
it's
kind of like, oh, I'm getting to teach again and also teach about the thing that I'm obsessed with.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I've also been kind of expanding my side of things where I do custom flower preservation and art creation, mostly with weddings.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get the word out because that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is for local couples, I take your wedding flowers and I will preserve them for you and I can turn them into a custom piece of artwork, a nice keepsake for you to hang in your home with glass.
I love that.
It's been really fun because I've gotten to meet a lot of local couples and kind of hear about their story.
Yeah.
And I feel really like grateful that they trust me with these flowers. And then in the end, I'm able to give them something that they can keep those memories alive. So
totally.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in
awesome.
that, there's lots more information on my website. Reach out to me and I'd love to chat.
Yeah, great. Well, yeah, before we wrap up, I do want to ask more about the flower preservation.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that?
About the same amount of time,
Okay.
actually. They sort of like, once I became obsessed with stained glass, I started following just about every stained glass artist I could on the internet, and I started to see that people were incorporating flowers, and I thought, that's amazing, because again, that's my jam. I love being outdoors, and so I started trying to do that about the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a really accessible hobby. I would recommend people try it, but also be patient because it's a lot of trial and error. Nature is nature, and you can hone your skills as to how to, give yourself the best chance of having a good outcome. But not every flower will turn out. Yeah. And you live and learn, and you'll get it. And it's fun. And when you have that perfect flower at the end that just looks amazing, it's all worth it. Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so pressing is what you do, sounds like.
Yes.
And is there anything other than just sticking it between 2 heavy books is the only thing I know to do with wax paper. Is there more to it than that?
There is.
Okay.
And I could talk about it forever. I'll give you the abridged version, but if anyone out there does want to know, I'm always happy to talk to people about it and give you tips. Books are a great way to do it. I use a combination of, I use books and I also use flower presses, which are really just 2 pieces of wood, and then in between you have layers of paper and cardboard. So it's really just a similar way. And it depends on kind of the flower, which method is best, which is why I use both. And that's part of the trial and error of kind of learning as you go.
Right.
But books do just fine, especially if you're working with a smaller flower or something that's not terribly thick.
Yeah, not super bulky.
Yeah, and it's accessible. Most people have some books lying around rather than buying a press.
Right.
So you can always start there. But yeah, it's just a matter of you put them between. Now, I've heard wax paper before, but I don't use that. You want something that's going to kind of absorb the moisture from them.
Oh, okay.
And typically for the first week, I say every other day you want to switch it out with new pages or a new book or new paper.
Okay.
So that it doesn't mold.
Yeah.
Because especially in a hot summer.
Right.
It can mold pretty quickly.
Right.
And then it's up to 4 weeks after that first week, you just leave it alone. And then a few weeks later, you open up that book and
hope it turned out. Yeah.
And see what happened.
Yeah. It almost sounds like brewing or winemaking or something where you're putting all this effort into making this thing perfect and you hope it turns out.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I also always say don't press one flower, press a few. Press a few.
Yeah.
Because some may turn out and some may not, or some will at least maybe turn out better where a petal folded over on this one but not on the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a very accessible thing to do here in Chico. So
yeah.
If you're into nature, it can be really fun.
Yeah,
give
absolutely.
it a shot.
Yeah, we've got plenty of flowers to go around in spring.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. You should see my studio in spring.
I'll bet.
Stacks of books and presses that I'm they're all full, but I want more.
Never enough.
Yeah.
Awesome. So people can find you on Instagram at Bree Glass Studio?
Yes.
Awesome. And then do you have a website? Or
Yeah, breeglassstudio.com.
Perfect.
And that's got my contact info. So if anyone wants to reach out for me for any reason, whether that be tips on pressing flowers or they want to commission a piece,
amazing.
Reach out. I'd happy to hear from you.
Cool. Are you doing any markets coming up, or is that in the works at all?
I don't do very many over the summer because it's so
hot.
dang hot.
Yeah.
So I don't have any coming up right now, but that is something that I do a lot. So also if you are interested,
keep an eye on the Instagram.
Yeah, my Instagram.
Yep.
I will always post when I'm going to be somewhere.
Yep.
But probably not till the fall.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally understand that. It's too hot to be outside after 10 a.m.
Yeah, even that. Oh my goodness. This morning I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, I literally took my son on a walk at 6 a.m. this morning and got back sweating after less than a mile. It was crazy.
Let's all just keep our fingers crossed that things are going to cool down.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, on that note, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast,
Oh,
so I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, of course. All right, and we will see you around town. Bye.
You only call me when you're lonely, darling, when you wanted something to change.
I wanted to give a huge shout out and thank you to Dara at Durham House Creative Company for jumping in to help with the Chico Creates podcast, social media, and marketing presence. Many of you may know Dara from her past work with the Artistry, Avenue 9 Gallery, Chiva, and or the Chico Art Center. I look forward to our collaboration. If you're looking for someone to help with your social media, marketing, or branding, give her a call at 530-570-3045. If you love what we're doing with the show, please consider becoming a supporter for as little as $5 a month. And if nothing else, subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast player is always very much appreciated and will help other people find us and the stories we share. You can find Chico Creates on Instagram at chico.creates. Thank you for listening and being part of our community.